Careful. And I think we are.
We are live and welcome to the final. Can you believe it? 2020 is almost over. What a year. And given that it is, in fact, our last actual live, we'll have a couple of watch parties over the holidays, but this is my actual last live of 2020. I wanted to share everything that I have learned. Well, not everything. What I can fit in the next 40 minutes that I have learned building a 7-figure coaching business. Some of these insights actually surprised me. So,
Again, you were about to forget that part. You do that every time. You tell me that you're not
Pat
forgetting.
literally just yelled Christmas,
and then you
and I'm like, oh
just,
God.
it's Christmas, man. There's
And
like,
now his
There you go.
balls have dropped.
my balls have dropped.
That's right.
You know,
I'm actually looking for your, hey, I see Cindy. Tell me who's here. Give me a big old shout out. If you're here, I want to see who you are. And today we're going to be talking about, hey, I see Catherine is here. Mariella is here. Whoop, whoop. June's here, baby. Christmas balls. I know. How many of you live with somebody who has a complete Christmas obsession, like literally starts playing music as of November?
no, but I mean,
It
it's
can't just be
important. You know, Christmas is practical in a way because you only have to choose the kind of music that you like, and there's a Christmas song for it. You want to listen to techno? There's probably some Christmas techno music. You want to listen to a rock song?
Can I tell you a
then
true story? Pat literally, so he's been obsessed with Fitness Plus, which is Apple's new fitness app. So if you guys don't know about this, you should check it out because it really is quite cool. And one of the things it does is you can have like all your different workouts like yoga and HIIT and whatnot. And then it gives you like the playlist that they play in the background of the workout. And Pat was like, you know what would be cool is if you could like play Christmas music while you worked out.
it makes so much sense.
Anyway.
Training
So,
and
yeah.
listening to Christmas music. All right, I'm gonna turn off the music now. There you go.
So
It's
anyway.
over.
I'm super excited to have you here because I'm going to share some of the stuff that I don't think I've ever really thought it through. I mean, my life's an open book. I share a lot of the details of my journey on the regular. If you're part of this community, I mean, I'm sure you've heard some of these pieces before, but it was an interesting experience even for me just to sit and really reflect. And I don't think I'm done reflecting. I'll be honest with you guys. I think I'm going to have some longer form posts that are coming at you about some of the specific insights or unpacking even some of the pieces that I'm going to share with you today about the journey that it took to get here, where we're running a 7 on the way to multi-7-figure business, coaching business specifically. And I say coaching business because it is specific. I think running a coaching company is different in some very crucial ways from running just a regular company. Like if you were running, let's say, drop shipping on Amazon, or if you had a dry cleaning shop, or if you had a boutique photography company or something like that, it really is different because there is so much of you. There has to be so much of you and your essence and your struggle and your healing in coaching. Because one of my core understandings of what coaching is and why we coach, those of us who are coaches, is that there you go. Azizi had holiday decorations up right after Halloween. So Azizi, it sounds like we're in the same boat here. But I was going to say one of the core understandings about coaching that I have is that the very thing that we seek to create for other people is the thing that we most seek healing for ourselves. And the reason we're drawn to coaching is because at some level we understand that in seeing our own problem manifested outside ourselves in the people that we serve, in helping them transmute the energy, navigating, crossing the chasm, transcending whatever the difficulty is, we get to relive the very breakthroughs that made us who we fundamentally are. The more we do that for others, the more we understand who we are ourselves. The more we understand who we are ourselves, the more we can help others. Does that make sense? Like, does this resonate for you? Because that is my understanding of coaching, which means that each of us here in this community, we are our own ideal client. We should be our bestest client, and we should absolutely, our ideal client is absolutely a version of us, just at a different place on the continuum, right? Which is a concept I've talked about many, many times. Yes. So let's get to it. I have some questions for you. So first of all, the usual question, because I know there's newbies here every time. So where are you located, and what is your topic, your coaching topic? So what is it that you're an expert in? What is it that you help people with? So I would love for you to share that in the comments. If you're watching the replay, give me a big old hashtag replay and share that information in the comments. I always come back. I always read through comments. I comment on the comments, and I like to get to know you. This is my opportunity to get to know you before we work together. So there's that. And then the other question that I was curious about, since we're talking about, the journey from, let's say, 9 to 5, or how many of you here are in that 9 to 5 place, still like looking to make that leap? Tell me who you are. Tell me what your topic is. And if you don't know what your topic is, tell me that, right? Tell me I don't know what my topic is. So if you're in that 9 to 5 place looking to make the leap, or you've made the leap and you're, working towards your first 6-figure year, or you've done that and now you're, getting to multi 6 figures, or you're on that way to 7 figures or beyond. So I would love to know I just want to get a read of the audience here. Where in your business are you? What is the next threshold that you're trying to get to? So that gives me a sense of kind of where on the continuum you are and where on the journey you are, so I can do my best to speak to where you're at. So Sapna, did you just join Grow? I think I just saw your name in Grow. Did I not? I think I did. And you're in parenting. Yes, you are. Cindy is in Atlanta. She's empowerment through recoding your DNA. And Cindy is like we call her like a doctor, kind of like Boutros Ghali. She's like multiple doctors. She has a PhD and an MD. She's amazing. There you go. So Sapna quit her 9 to 5 last year, trying to make the leap. That's amazing. And she's in Grow now. Woohoo. So if you haven't heard about Grow, you really should scroll the feed, because it is the craziest opportunity that we've ever put out, working with us at 75% off the regular investment. And we created it for people who just needed our help to get our help. So if you're in that place and you're like, I need a lot of support, I need a lot of clarity, but I don't have, the full investment to make, and it's too early in the journey for me, or for whatever reason, I can't make that investment, then you need to go and figure out how to apply for Grow. We're finalizing the list. We're going to finish. Obviously, everything's going to shut most likely by tomorrow, end of day. We have so many applicants we're still reviewing. So if it's not too late to apply, so go ahead and apply. And if you make the cut, someone on the team will be reaching out to you. Okay. So let's do this. So lesson number 1 that I want to just talk about, just right out the gate, no matter where you're at in your coaching journey, especially if you're at the very beginning, you just have to decide. Okay. Like there's no sugarcoating this. There's no easy way to say this. I remember how terrified I was when I was coming off of 2 years of unpaid maternity leave. The first year was paid, to be fair. Part of the first year was paid. And then the last, 18 months or so were not paid. And I was like, oh my God, am I really going to do this full time? But something in me had fundamentally shifted when we had our first child, our son. And I was like, I can't go back to doing something I don't 100% in every cell of my body believe in. I just can't do it. I can't go back to working in television and just being like, a personality on TV. Like it was not enough. And I remember how broken I felt, because I remember thinking, man, the money is great. I literally had my face on billboards. True story. I had a life-size cutout of myself in my producer's office. Like I was a celebrity, I guess. And it wasn't enough. And I was like, what is wrong with me? I really thought that there was something wrong with me, that felt like I needed more. I was like, who the hell do I think I am? So if you're feeling those feelings, I just want you to know that's a part of your purpose expanding. And I'm so glad that I listened to that voice. I didn't have a choice. I'll be honest. When I'm not in, I'm very binary. Either I'm all the way in something or I'm just not. I'm not good at faking productivity. I'm not good at faking interest in. I am really terrible at faking interest in things. Ask Pat,
Yeah, that's
right?
good.
Like if
That's
I'm
good
not,
for me. That's very
it
good for
is.
me.
I'm super straight. Like you can totally read all my emotions on my face. So I would be a terrible poker player. Terrible. But yeah, it's really, really, really painful when you're in that place where you're like, okay, I have outgrown this thing and I don't know what the heck comes next. And that's where I was at. And I was terrified. And it was compounded by the fact that most of the people in my family did not understand what the F I was trying to do. I had just failed at a venture that I had started up, like a little sling company while I was on maternity leave. And it never really made it past the friends and family phase. So I literally had a fresh entrepreneurial failure that had just happened under my belt. And I had gotten everyone involved. My dad had invested money in it. Like he had actually shipped me and brought over some fabrics for the slings. Like I had told my sisters about it. They were helping me promote it. Like everybody had gotten involved. So it was like extra super duper like oogie shameful that it had bombed. It never really grew past a certain level. And in order for it to move past it, I would have had to go into debt, make giant investments, figure out a whole bunch of stuff about shipping and manufacturing and all this other stuff that I didn't know how to do. And I realized that that was not really my calling. So, yeah. How many of you are in that place, right? Where you've tried something and it has bombed and all your friends and family are now asking you, dude, you just screwed up this other thing and you freaking like borrowed money and like what makes you think this is any different? That was me at the beginning of this journey in 2014, okay? And I would put my phone on airplane mode for weeks at a time. Like literally, I would wake up, I would check stuff, and then I would put it on airplane mode, and I would just like not take any calls from well-meaning friends and family. People couldn't find me, could not reach me because they kept asking me how questions. They would be like, "So how are you going to replace your TV salary, huh? You just had a baby, dude. You have a mortgage to pay. You can't afford to make silly decisions like this. You're not a kid anymore. Like you can't be irresponsible. How irresponsible are you?" I remember getting asked that a lot. And people didn't understand what this whole online thing was about. They didn't understand any of this. And meanwhile, I'm like investing like on my credit card to be like, I need to get help. Like I need to understand how this is done. But if other people are doing it, I'm at least as smart as they are. I'm going to figure this out. So raise your hand if you were in that boat, because I certainly was. And the number one thing that I realized was that you have to make that decision. And not everybody is going to agree with that decision. A lot of people who are close to you are not going to understand that decision. And that is okay. It is okay. And how you feel about it is really just that's yours to own. How they feel about it, that's theirs to own. That's a really important distinction that I learned the hard way doing this. I remember at one point, very early on, again, Pat and I were even like not on the same page at all about this business. He
I
was
was the one. I
supporting us.
was the one telling you, like, my God, we just had a kid. Please, let's not do
Yeah,
that.
totally. He was just like, what is wrong with you? You're being super irresponsible. And meanwhile, I was like, no, we're going to make this work. And it was very stressful for us as a couple. I won't lie. Like it was a really difficult time. We almost broke up and
Okay,
we've been together a long time.
can I intervene
Yeah.
here and say that maybe it
Yes,
would be time
please.
to play some Christmas music just to make things better?
Yes, exactly. It was kind of like, it was a weird time for us because on one hand, Pat was kind of like, he could see how excited and lit up and into it I was. And there's an infectiousness to that kind of vision, right? I'm a visionary. So how many of you are visionaries, right? You can relate to this. There's an infectiousness to that energy. But at the same time, he's very grounded. He's the realistic person in our couple. Like he's the structure person, the systems person. He's just like the how is a little sketchy on this plan. Like I see the vision and all, but like the path to it, there ain't one. And I was like, yeah, we'll figure it out. I will figure this out. And that was the thing. I made the decision that I was going to do it. I didn't know how. And I trusted the universe that the how would show up. And my job was to keep my vision clear so that I could figure out how to make it work. That was it. It's not pretty. It's not easy. It is the hardest thing. Let's put up the dictionary definition of an entrepreneur. Most people don't know what the dictionary definition of entrepreneur is. I sometimes will speak to people who are like, oh man, I really need this. I really want to do this. Like, I've been trying to do this by myself for years and years. But yeah, like, I don't know, man. That's a lot of money. Like, I'm how much risk you take. Obviously there's no like particular number in terms of financial risk. It's also not just financial. It's relational risk, it's emotional risk, it's psychological risk. It's like all of those things. All your past trauma is going to be triggered. But the dictionary definition of entrepreneur, as you can see on your screen, is somebody who organizes and manages an enterprise, especially a business, usually with a considerable initiative and risk. Entrepreneurs, by definition, are people who take more risks than your average bear. Now, again, how much more, that's variable. But obviously, if you're looking for fast growth, you're going to have to take on more risk. And if you're okay with slower growth, then you can take on less risk. And that's fine. And there's no right or wrong way to do this. There's lots of different flavors to entrepreneurship. All of them are awesome. I will tell you that. No one's telling you you have to do it any particular way. But if you're trying to make a giant leap without taking risk, then you're in the wrong line of work. It's as simple as that. And I tell you this because it was something that another entrepreneur told me when I was trying to get that sling company to kind of break through to the other side. I went out with this entrepreneur who ran a cloth diaper company. So she was in the same kind of niche. She was serving the same market. We had the same market. And I told her, I was like, oh, but I don't want to take on any debt. And I don't want to do any of this. And she was like, really? So wait, you're telling everybody else to take a risk on you, but you're not willing to take a risk on your own idea. And I was like, well, I didn't think of it that way, but yeah, kind of. And she was like, yeah, if that works, you let me know. Okay. And then she just like paid for her coffee and left. And she was just like, fuck this noise. Because I had invited her to mentor me. And she was just like, yeah, no one can mentor you. Sorry, honey. And she was right. And I didn't get it because that was not necessarily the right idea for me at that time. But I did understand it. And when the idea was right, I was like, I'm going all in. And I remember how excited I was that my own accountant at the time was like, Geeta, I will invest in this company. Like, do you need to incorporate right away? She was like, it's not even worth incorporating if you don't think you're going to make 60 grand in the first year. And I was like, then we should incorporate because I'm definitely going to make 60 grand in the first year. And she was like, really? And I was like, yes. And she's like, oh, okay. Do you have a plan? And I was like, I'm working on it. And she was like, you know what? Knowing what I know about you, you're going to make this happen. If you ever need like a loan or something, like let me know and I will invest in you. And I was shocked. And I never took money from her. But just the fact that my accountant believed in me, I just needed anyone to believe in me in those early days. I remember how blown my mind was in that moment that someone who barely knew me could read my energy and be like, dude, this is going to work for you. And she was right. She was not an investor in this company. I own it 100%, but we hit 6 figures in 5 months. We did it. It worked. And she was right to believe in it. Okay. So yeah, huge emotional risks involved. Now, a book that I recommend. So if you're in this kind of like, oh my God, how do I make this risk happen? One of the books that really kind of like lit me up in those early days was the book You Are a Badass by Jen Sincero. How many of you have read it here? Because I know it's very popular. She has a whole series of badass books now. It has turned into a franchise. One of our clients, Anna and Matthew, if you're watching this, sent us a button that like you press it and it says, you are a badass in Jen Sincero's voice and all these other hilarious things. And that's one of our favorite toys in the house. And we're constantly like saying it. And we're like, feed fear a suck it sandwich, because that's one of the things the button says. Hilarious and worth it. I highly recommend this book. So good. So good. There's a story in there. I'm not a car person. I ride a bicycle. I do not have a driver's license yet. But there's a story in there about an Audi. And Jen Sincero tells the story of how she was, dead broke and driving this like rickety ass rust bucket car that leaked, and, the transmission was kind of broken-ish. And there was like, when it rained, like water would get in the car and stuff. And she was like, I need to get a new car. And she had to make a decision. Does she buy a another Honda, like another used kind of car, or does she go and buy an Audi? And she had no money. Okay. And so she goes to the Audi showroom and she like feels the leathery seats and she like, steers the buttery steering, the power steering. And she's like, oh man, this Audi is just so nice. And then she gets into a Honda or whatever the other car was. I can't remember. I'm not a car person. And then she drives it and she's like, this is very nice. And it's a perfectly functional car and it gets me from point A to point B. And, it's fine. And she was like, but I want the Audi. And she was like, you know what? She ended up buying the Audi and she was like, I am going to become the person that owns an Audi. That's what I'm going to do. And again, none of this, if you think this is about taking a stupid risk on a car, then you've missed the point of this story. The point of this story was that she was switching her identity and the Audi was merely the outward manifestation of the identity, the energetic identity that she was stepping into. And so she made that her way of making that commitment kind of I can't escape from this, like I put money down on that commitment kind of thing, was to buy that particular car. And that's how she did it. And then she absolutely upgraded her entire motherfucking life so that it would match the Audi. And she did step into the identity of the person who owns and drives an Audi. And I remember reading that story, again, not as a car person, and just there was something weird almost that happened in my body when I was reading that story. And I was like, I get it. And I've made some kind of purchase here. And it was an energetic thing. And like I said, I was buying coaching at the time because that's what I bought at the time. I was like, that's what I need. I need strategy. I need help. I need support. And now I am the person that does not own an Audi, but could if I chose to, right? And that's that story. And terror is normal, right? Terror is a huge part of it, which brings me to my next point, which is learn to feel your negative emotions. I mean, if you've worked with us, if you are, Reina is like, oh my God, you're a badass is my Bible, right? Oh my God, so true. My next point here is learn to feel your negative emotions. If you are a client who's worked with us, you know that the kind of mindset work that we do is not like your typical. Most people talk about mindset. Most people say they do mindset. The way that most people, or in my experience, at least in the coaching industry, do mindset is they tell you to think positive and they give you shit to do. And they say like, no, you got to commit and you just got to go for it. And it just, yes, all of that is valuable. However, there's a whole chunk of that story just missing. And that's what this next point is about. You have to learn to feel your negative emotions. I, card-carrying member of the positivity clan, still am a very positive person. However, the way that I practiced positivity back in the day, when I was learning to be an entrepreneur, was I would just deny, suppress, repress, and escape all of my fear, all of my anger, all of my guilt, all of my shame, and all of this other jazz, which of course made me feel isolated and abandoned. And then I would make fear-based decisions, or I feel like I still made growth. I still, made progress, but I think I would have made even faster progress if I had allowed myself to actually feel what I felt. And this is something that I do now. And I will tell you this, we make exponentially more progress, and the process has become much more pleasurable. Before, I used to have to kind of white knuckle it and be like, okay, at some point I'll be on the other side of this and then it'll be worth it, right? Like that gets old. It's okay to start up that way, and I think many of us end up starting up that way. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just not a sustainable way to live, right? You're going to reach some kind of tipping point with that approach. And if you don't expand your toolkit at that point, there's going to be a cliff and you're going to fall off it. And we work with so many people who have built amazing things, who have experienced hyper growth and then have lost it all because they couldn't sustain the emotional trajectory of growth. And that's a big deal. And that's something I'm super passionate about now. And that's one of the biggest gifts that we give our clients at Impact with Influence, because we're helping you build your ability to feel and experience and hold all of yourself. I remember babe, you'll tell them, I used to, this is a classic conversation that we used to have back in the day. Pat would be like, dude, how are we going to do this? Or he'd be like, like, what did you just spend? Like, what did you just do? Like, what did you buy just now? And it would be some coaching product. And I'm like, yeah, and we need to do this thing, and I need to do this, and then we need to build this. And he'd be like, I don't understand how you make your decisions. And I would say, it's going to be fine. And he would say, you always say that. And I would say, and it's always true. Remember that?
It's because the producer brain cannot have the visionary brain. The
It's
visionary
true.
brain is the thing that it's the person that pushes forward. And at that point, when it's just a new idea, the producer brain is not capable of encompassing the amount of the task.
What? There is no map here. There's a lot of steps missing, which there are. I mean, that is the nature of creating something from nothing, right? And oh man, we had so much stress. And it's not like, and we have that still, right? Like at every phase, there's going to be that leap that you're making to the next thing. But we have such a much more interesting conversation about it now. Now I'm able to acknowledge where I'm fearful. I'm able to acknowledge the pieces where I feel a little bit lost or stuck. And I'm able to invite in your producerness and your genius to the table. And you trust me more and I trust you more. And it's because I trust those parts of myself. I trust that I can feel fear and it's okay. It's not going to end the deal. That was a huge shift for me. I can process my shame. I can process guilt over past failure. I can process all of that and I can still find permission to proceed. And then you can support me with that, which is amazing because now I get to play with your genius too. And prior, one of the things that really slowed us down is that here I am kind of going 700 miles a minute in my visionary, crazy ass way. And then Pat, who is a bloody genius at structure and systems and stability and stabilization, I was basically having to cut him out of the process because I was scared to let him in, lest he somehow, I don't know, turn off my vision or talk me out of something. I was very scared of that because I didn't trust my own voice and I didn't trust all of my emotions yet. And that has really evolved for us. And thank God, because if you're going to grow a 7-figure company, especially, you're going to have to cycle between hypergrowth and stabilization. Both those, it's like a beautiful yin yang that has to happen because otherwise, again, it becomes like this. It's like imagine a scaffolding that you're building out from flat ground here. At some point, the physics are just not going to work unless you put some kind of support underneath it. And that's what Pat brings to our team. And that's that, and you'll probably have somebody in your life that brings that kind of stability thinking to something that is like a complete blue sky, that is a beautiful, shooting star out into the unknown.
Oh, that's very sweet, baby.
True.
That's sweet. I just want to mention that we're at lesson 2 and it's been like 30 minutes now. Just to keep you just lesson 3 maybe.
Okay, so learn to feel your negative emotions. One of the ways that we do it is we do hypno naps. So each of our clients, when they work with us, they get a custom audio that is specific to their particular struggles, the reprogramming that they need. And one of my favorite ways to use it is when you have that 3 p.m. dip, you put on your headset, you lie on the couch, and you're not quite sleeping, you're not quite awake. You're in this in-between incredibly restful place. And then you just kind of have your perspective beautifully tweaked until it comes back to your most creative self. Then you wake up and you go back to work. So it's a nice balance.
3 p.m. in the afternoon. You meant, okay, yeah, sorry. I thought you meant 3 in the morning because no one has to dip at 3
on what yours, depending on when your most productive time is. Yeah, for me, it's 3 p.m. And then I'm by 7 p.m., I'm done. Okay, lesson number 3. Have a physical anchor or action that brings you back to the present. How many of us live in that place where you're all the thoughts, right? You have things that have happened, things that are supposed to happen, things that should have happened but didn't happen. And then things that you're planning. And there's so much stuff in your mind, all your goals. And there's all this unprocessed emotion underneath, right? And then add on top of that, nowadays, especially, if you add social to that, right? The ads that you see, the other people's success that you're looking at, everybody's perfect Pinterest board or whatnot, it's a lot. And you need to find a way to bring yourself back to the present, because if you don't have a good way to do this, especially as a coach, oh God, you're headed for burnout. Okay. So one of the things that I did to deal with terror, and I think Tanisha asked this, like, how do you deal with the emotion, the emotional journey of like, you're not quite ready to expand yet, but you're in that in between place. Well, have a physical way to bring yourself back to the present. Some people do it with their breath. I remember I had so much like nervous energy that I didn't know what to do with. I would go on long, slow runs and I would just repeat. I had my mantra, which I would say, the only way I will fail is if I freak out. I will not freak out. The only way I will fail is if I freak out. If Mary Catherine is listening, we met and she interviewed me for her podcast, like way back in, I think, 2015 or 2014. And I told her about this, and it has been kind of a little in-joke between us for the longest time. So yeah, I've been doing it since then. And this is something that I come back to now when I'm like, oh God, we're going to do something huge and crazy. The only way I will fail is if I freak out. All I have to do is not freak out. So what do I need to do? So what do I need to do to not freak out? Do I feed myself? Do I sleep a little more? What can I do to physically anchor myself in the present? So different people have different ways to do it. I have like breathe, meditate, do a yoga pose, do a pull-up, combine it. And another really great way is combine it with music. So have a song that you really love that just brings you back. It could be brain FM type, binaural beat type music, a scent or some other kind of sensory experience. But find a way to go when your emotions or your energy starts to kind of spiral out of control and you need to ground yourself. You need to figure out a way that you bring yourself back to center, because if you don't choose it, I pinky promise you, it will choose you, and it might not be something that you want. Because a lot of people, when they get to this place, will go abuse coffee, abuse social, impulse shop, eat too much, sugar, booze, whatever, right? Everybody will, this is where addictions come from, that escapism, that like, I don't know what to do with this energy, blah, let me throw it at something. So find something, find a way to come home. Cold showers. A bit harder if you're between meetings. I like to do something that you can do literally anywhere. And you can do a push-up almost anywhere. You can sit and like just center yourself and do like 10 deep breaths anywhere, right? Find something that you can do anywhere. You can put your headphones on, listen to a song. Cold showers, with or without your clothes on, in the middle of summer, whatever. Lesson number four. Know your zone of genius. This brings me to the other book that I promised you. Remember, I told you there were two books that I was going to recommend. One was You Are a Badass by Jen Sincero. The other book is The Big Leap. This is a book that I have read every single year, sometimes twice a year, since 2014, since I discovered it in 2014. I would love to invite all of you. Tell me if this is something that's interesting to you in the comments. I would like to invite you to do maybe a book club, our first ever Messaging That Makes Money book club, reading The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. So Dr. Gay Hendricks. Tell me if this is of interest to you, and I will tell you what I figured out a way to do it kind of virtually, where we can all read at our own places. People who don't like to read can listen to podcasts. I have all kinds of different resources because I've read about this thing so much. And then we can talk about all of the deeper insights, because especially if you're a coach, you cannot not read this book. I'm so sorry. It is required reading as a coach. So if you haven't already read it, or if you have read it and loved it, I would invite you to read it with us again. But one of the things that you need to know is your zone of genius, because what ends up happening oftentimes when you're trying to create growth in your company, right? Let's say it's like you've got some momentum, it's working, but it's only working a little bit, and you're already overwhelmed, and you're like, I cannot do more things. How many of you are in this place, right? I cannot do more things, but my revenue needs to grow. My impact needs to grow. I want to make more of a difference, but I cannot take on more tasks, and I am feeling stuck and overwhelmed. Right? So if you're in that place, the cure to that is in The Big Leap. It talks about really discovering your zone of genius. And so here's what I have so the question that I have for you is, how many of you know your zone of genius? So tell me what your zone of genius. I'm looking at the comments here. Yay, lots of you are in for the book club. Yay, cool. Tell me what your zone of genius is, if you know it. And if you don't know it, here are some questions to ask yourself. Get your pencils out. Here are your questions. It's got to be something that you love doing. So what is it that you love doing? It has to also be something you're amazing at. So it can't be something you love doing that you suck at. It has to be something you're amazing at, that you love doing, that makes you money while helping others. So those four things: something that you love doing, that you're amazing at, that makes you money while helping others. It can't be just three. It can't be just two. It has to be all four. That's your zone of genius. So if you don't know what your zone of genius, then that's your first step. Find out what your zone of genius is. Because if you don't know what it is, then you're not able to know what you're supposed to put more of your time towards. If you don't know what that is, it becomes really difficult to step away from all the busy work that you're spending your time in. Most of us will spend too much of our time in our zones of incompetence. This is all the stuff that you have to do, that nobody else can do, that you hate doing, that actually costs you energy, that you actually suck at, right? Accounting, bookkeeping for many of us, all of that stuff, cleaning your house, all of that stuff may not be. Cleaning your house may be something you like because it enhances your sense of well-being. It may, like, I actually enjoy, so like I love folding laundry. It's very meditative for me. We do it as a fun activity with the kids. That's fine. But if you're hating it and it's diminishing your energy and it's like one more thing to do, then it's your zone of incompetence. Does that make sense? So zone of incompetence, then there's your zone of competence. This is stuff that you're like, okay, I'll do it. I'm okay at it and it needs to be done. So that's kind of that. And then there's your zone of excellence, which you would think is a good thing. Many of us get stuck here. This is when we get out of growth. This is when we stall and get stuck, okay? It's stuff that we're good at, that people really love for us to do, that might make us a bit of money, but that we're kind of bored with. How many of you can identify with this, right? Things that maybe used to be really exciting to you, but have kind of lost their shine. And now you're like, I'm doing it. It's kind of working and it makes money, but is this all there is? That's zone of excellence. Zone of genius is where you're lit up and you could go for hours and not even realize the time has passed. So if you're not feeling that, that's zone of genius. And you need to basically very deliberately minimize all of the time that you spend in all of the other zones and start hiring out your weaknesses ASAP, which brings me, that's lesson number 5. Hire out your weaknesses ASAP. Like, not joking. And I know many of you are going to be like, yeah, Geeta, but I don't have enough money to hire my weaknesses. Well, you're not going to have any money to hire your weaknesses if you don't start really figuring out what the frick weaknesses should you hire first. So here's the order in which I would do it. In fact, this is the order in which I did it. So I hired my first virtual assistant 5 hours a week because that is, I'm saying that is all I could afford. Actually, I couldn't even really fully afford that. I had $300 in my bank account, and the way that the billing system worked, I would have owed her $500 at the end of the month. Now, I am not telling you to hire people without having money to pay them. Obviously, have a way to pay people that are doing honest work for you. But what I did was I did 2 things. I first spent money on getting coaching. I needed. The thing is, you can't hire an assistant. You should not hire a team to execute for you if you aren't crystal clear what the strategy is. Because if you've got somebody who's like, great boss, tell me what to do, and you're like, I don't really know what to do, I'm kind of doing a whole bunch of shit and hoping something works, then you have 2 headless chickens. You have headless chickens leading headless chickens, and it's expensive and it's pointless. And you would probably not have money at the end of the month to pay this person. And that's not a good situation for either of you to be in. So the very first hire that you need to make is get somebody who knows what they're doing, who can help you, who is a coach, who can give you the strategy, who can get you out of your own way and tell you what to implement in what order. That's going to help you know, well, what is the tasks that I'm hiring for first, and who is now going to be qualified to accomplish those tasks. So that's kind of the hierarchy. And if you need this kind of help, obviously, that's what we do, right? So if you're you're a coach and you're a genius at what you do, you really have this thing that is amazing for people. It is worth a premium. People, if the outcome that you create is worth at least $3,000 and is probably priceless. If that's you and you're just having trouble creating the structures and systems and figuring out how to connect with your ideal client and how to generate leads and how to make sales and all that stuff, that we can help you with. So if that's something you're looking for, then find the link on your screen, apply, scroll through the feed to see what our clients are saying about us. There's also an opportunity to work with us, like I said, right now, for 75% off the regular investment. It's not the whole program, but it's enough to get you started, and then we can roll your investment forward towards the whole program so that we can help you make some money so you can invest with us and go further. So find that link on your screen so that you can apply to talk to somebody on the team. Time is really, really running out. So if you haven't applied for Grow, please do. That would be the first step. And then the second step is Start with whatever you can outsource, whatever little detail you can outsource it, and start with your zone of incompetence. And often it's not as expensive as you would think. That's the thing. Everybody tells themselves, oh, I can't afford it. If you think like that, you won't be able to afford it. If you ask yourself, that was one of the big shifts that I made, was I stopped saying can't and I started asking how. How can I afford this? I know I can. How can I afford it? I just don't see it yet. The money's in my house. Where do I find it? Like, what can I do to make this possible so that I can offload this from my plate? And you'd be shocked. My first VA took a pay cut. She left a different other position because she was so caught up in my excitement for what we were doing. And she was like, yeah, I really want to help you build this. She had structure brain when I was like crazy chaos visionary brain, right? I needed her to be the boss of me so we could get shit done. Best decision I ever made. I hired her. She helped me execute. I quadrupled her pay at the end of the month because we made money. We were profitable from the very first month. And that's the way it has to be. I got strategy and then I got help executing that strategy. That's the way to do it. Does that make sense? And that brings me to lesson number 6. This one's a hard one. Okay. It is really difficult. And this has been, so those of you who are a little bit further into this journey, where you're at 6 or multi-6 figures and you're making that leap to 7, or you're now trying to scale past 7 figures, right? Past that $1 million mark and you're getting to 3 million and stuff. It's so difficult to put down something good to pick up something truly great. And there's so much under here that I still have to think about and process. So believe me, there's going to be a post coming. It is so hard. So if you're one of those coaches that has had moderate success, but you just can't seem to break through, and you have to make, like, I remember what it was like. And this was interesting because we had gotten to like multiple 6 figures with Baby Got Booked, which was my PR only program that we don't offer anymore, right? So I had that. And it was kind of limping along, but it had stalled. Like the growth just wasn't, like, we had flatlined, and now we were in kind of mild decline. And it felt like I kept like throwing things at it. I was like, more, like stuff and funnels and this, that, and the other thing. And it was like it was just not good. And it was really difficult to give myself permission to put it down. So difficult. I don't know if any of you have faced this. We've also worked with clients who are a little bit more advanced, where they've had companies, they've been maybe doing events, or they've got like lots of different programs, a very complicated suite of things that they do. And they're like, I cannot run this anymore. I am so burnt out. I'm so overwhelmed. Each piece requires its own nurturing, and there's just not enough of me left to go around. Our revenues are in decline. I cannot afford the kind of help I used to have. Like, what do I do? Right? In situations like this, I think really giving yourself permission to sit, again, this goes back to what I talked about. Like, you have to learn to feel all your emotions, because oftentimes a situation like that is a manifestation of internal misalignment. And I know this was true for me. My purpose had expanded. I was craving a much deeper conversation than just the PR piece. I mean, that was really good at that. I could do it in my sleep. People were getting results left, right, and center, but I was like, God, like, I'm done. This is my zone of genius, my zone of excellence. My zone of genius had suddenly become my zone of excellence, and I had expanded. And I was very scared to step past my zone of excellence, something that worked, something that was generating revenue, something that basically fed my family and a few other families from our teammates, right? And I was like, can we really afford to put this down and consider doing something bigger? Because that's taking that first risk all over again. And I was effing terrified out of my mind. And Pat, remember how scared you were? Remember where you were like, whoa, I don't like what this, like, I don't like the way you're talking. Remember? And like, Boo was really tiny and she was not sleeping, and I was breastfeeding and I was not sleeping, and it was just like so tiring and so emotional. And I was like, I don't think I can keep selling this, because I can't sell something I don't believe in. And he was like, whoa, 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 whoa. Don't be talking like that. Like, what are you talking about? This is the only thing we do. And I was like, I know, but I don't know. And I was like, I don't know. And it was like, it was such a scary time. So if you're in that place, can I just say I so honor that place, it is such a beautiful, juicy place if you don't run away from it and if you don't ignore it. Don't do things that will erode your sense of trust in yourself. Don't pretend it's not real. It's real. And it has a gift for you if you're willing to examine it. And the way to get to that gift is to feel your way through all of the angst. You have to feel your way through the guilt. You have to feel your way through the fear. You have to feel your way through the shame. You have to feel your way through that, like, that free falling, like, oh my God, like, where is this going? And the truth is in there. I promise you, the truth is there. I've seen it. I've experienced it. I helped so many people do exactly this. It's there. You just have to give yourself permission to move towards the thing that terrifies you. And every time that I've come to a place where I have at different points, like during COVID, man, during this pandemic, right? There were times when I was like, what if we picked the wrong business model? Like, what if high ticket is done? Like, what if? There were all of these what ifs, right? And I remember sitting down with Pat, and now we have a much better process for it. And I was like, I just need to put everything on the table. I need to put on the table that we're terrified. I need to put on the table that we might stop. I need to put on the table all of this. And because I was able to do that, I didn't make a fear-based decision. In this particular case, I didn't need to put anything down. I just needed to reimagine it. That's where these lives started to happen. I was like, I need to serve this community for free better than I have been doing. That's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to make sure that I connect with my clients in a much, much more powerful way. That was the decision that came out of facing that fear. So it doesn't always mean that you're going to have to put everything down. I just want you to be clear about that. One time, that's what happened. The second time, it was a completely different answer. But going towards that truth is the process that you need to develop in order to go from whatever level you're at to that next level. As your excellence improves and your genius expands, you're going to have to make that leap. And those are probably the most key lessons that I have learned, going from employee building someone else's dream, working in an office, to now running a 7-figure company that's on its way to 8, right?
Just before while you were closing the last point, I just wanted to put the clarificator link on the screen for it's a great tool.
Great idea. It's such a great tool. And this is exactly where that tool came from, is in facing that maelstrom of, oh my God, like, what do I do? So if you haven't checked out the clarificator, there's the link on your screen. Check it out. It is a tool that I created. It's 5 steps. You'll see a lot of people in this community have used it. Scroll the clarificator, scroll the feed, or use the hashtag clarificator. Guys, when you post about the clarificator, can you please use the hashtag clarificator? So now newbies can come and kind of look at all the posts that kind of fit it. It will help you see your truth. So it's probably the most effective self-coaching tool that I have ever used. It's one I developed for my own use. It's one I use multiple times a week. I use it all the dang time. We coach our own team with it. We coach our clients with it. I coach myself with it. It works. The more you use it, the better it works. I highly recommend it. And that's going to help you get in touch with your own truth, especially if it feels like it's covered up with a whole bunch of what ifs or other people's stories or other people's projection of fear onto you. And you're just like, God, I'm just trying to figure out what the frick my deal is. If you're in that place, you need to use the clarificator. Does that make sense? And Pat's got, exactly where to find it up on your screen here. You can see me talk through this in the video on the screen. I would love to hear what your biggest aha is from listening to me tell you the story of how I came to be who I am and how we run what we run. I would love to hear, what is the part that most resonated with you? And what is the specific action that you're going to take that allows you to take this insight and turn it into something that you own? Because having this insight from me, I already have it, right? My entire purpose with creating this video was to give it to you, to pass my essence onto you so that I can smooth some way, maybe build a bridge over a particular, chasm in the journey where you would have fallen into a rabbit hole, or gone down a rabbit hole. And now this way you get to walk that bridge over it instead. I would love, love, love to hear what your deepest insight was and then what you're going to do with that. And if you have an insight and you're like, I don't know what to do with this, then put that in the comments too. And I can come back and maybe try and help you come up with a plan. All right. That is it. Happy holidays. I won't see you live here on Thursday next week or the week after that. We're back the first week of January. But what we will do is have a watch party And I will be posting and I will be checking your comments, and we will continue this conversation here because you mean everything to me. And I'm so grateful that you're a part of this community. Thank you. Thank you. From all of us here at Impact with Influence, happy holidays.